Start recording again. So, I think that the ideas that come to my mind when I watch videos or try to think about science, like, and physics the way it is, it just gives me like this sheer awe of what we as a humankind have reached. But at the same time, when I look into the reality, I think, wow, this is like, these people are not ready for the quantum jump. Like, no, what I think is that our reality is very far away from what we can understand and what we can imagine. I can certainly imagine a lot of things that are seen and here. I sometimes mentally travel through the universe, trying to think of, some different periods of history and like how would it feel to be conscious? Like, what does it feel to be conscious? Like a meteorite that is self-aware. But like, imagine it's like a human, but it's a meteorite, and it has a very different lifespan. It's a very different experience. And when people talk about enlightenment and samsara and like different levels of samsara, I always wonder about the fact, like, whether am I able to be enlightened in this life, or how many more lives do I need to be enlightened, and like, what is to be enlightened? And I think that there are like many other levels. Like, what about ego? Like, what if I think that I'm smarter than everybody else? Is that okay to think that way, or it's not okay to think that way? Like, the way you put the sentences, it's important. Like, when you say I'm better than everybody, that's one sentence. And when you say I'm so good at something, that's a little bit different. It's more neutral. Whereas the first phrase, it's a little bit more I would say like arrogant and more of a ego, selfish based personality. We have seen a lot of that, like, for the last 100 years and more. Like, think about the history of our species. We are not the best example. I can tell you. We don't have so many technologies. We have such like fundamental problems in our society today, like in our understanding of the fact that we are united, organism, I would say. I believe that people are about to evolve into some kind of collective organism, because we already are. Like, the trick of a future is that you never realize it's a future because for you it's always present, right? So we live in the future right now. We are able to have things that were never in the history of our species was available. I can eat fruits from different countries. I can travel to, different locations. I can travel the whole planet. Like, how many people in the world, in the history of the whole humankind, could do that? There are like 108 billion people were historically on the planet. I heard that number somewhere. It might not be incorrect, but just like it's convenient for brain massage. So when you think about 108 billion people, you think, wow, we just hit 8 billion people, and there's like 15 times more, like 100. It's like that's a lot of time, and like a lot of generations, a lot of different situations, like, and the lifestyle was so different in different ages. And it's just interesting, how does it feel to live on a different time scale? Like, the fact that one of the most popular series, not the popular, but my favorite series of games is called Mass Effect. And I just love the way this story has been written and like animated and like developed into a game, like a trilogy. I could like listen to somebody's like amazing book or a world, or like a universe, just by playing the game, and I didn't have to do anything particular. It was like all fun, and it was really interesting. So the idea that there's like, it's a very interesting storyline. I really recommend you to go to YouTube and find like the storyline of Mass Effect or something like that. So the main idea of the game is that every 50,000, first of all, you go through the path of a hero, You are the main hero who's going to save the galaxy and all of that, and you can customize your personal avatar. So you could make it look a little bit more like you or something like that. Just the fact that you could choose gender, very questionably, and different like abilities. Yeah, it was fun. But the idea was that there were many different races, and some of the races, had the lifespan of like 1,000 years or something. Like, imagine how it feels to date somebody who is going to, well, you are going to live for 70 years on average, right? With all augmentations and advanced medicine and like financial problems and all of that. But somebody who's dating you and you might have children together is going to live for thousands of years. Like around like 1,000 years. That's just like changes the game so much. Like, what do you think about it? Have you ever thought about?
Well, rouse
Mm-hmm.
the animals, the birds, ravens, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they do live at least 150 years.
Yeah, parrots live for
Uh,
60, 80 years. Wow. Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's man, or the turtles as well. Sea
Mm-hmm.
turtles also
200
live
years. Yeah.
too much,
A bottle of
and
something, a glass bottle, is gonna live for 500 years.
well, it's not a living being,
Well,
but
just think
at
about the
least
idea that it's gonna live longer than you. Is that's purely the relationship between your mind and the essence and the definition of time. How does the time feels? Like that's a big question that I have in my own experience in this life. Like, how does it feel to be in an infinity, being at the same time sentient and like maybe having feelings to some extent? We immediately jump into the world of cybernetics and about mind, brain copying devices or maybe something, because that's going to be one of the ways to discover our true soul and to discover our true nature, and like it's a test of time and our level of life. I'm sure that we are not the first, and maybe probably not the last, civilization to have to pass that test. Like, it reminds me of the like von Neumann machines and about the aliens and the ideas, like the calculations, whether how possible is it for the universe to have more sentient life, and why we never have reliable evidence of encounters, right? And we step into the woo-woo area here, but it's just interesting how, what's the edge of the universe for us? Like, what's the edge of different planes of reality, different realms of things and ideas and thoughts? For example, I am very fascinated by fractals. For example, fractal patterns, they are just mesmerizing. Like, I can't stop watching them, and it's there are many other visual things that attract my attention, and like particularly, it's really interesting that fractal pictures show exactly what you see as visuals in some psychedelic states or altered states of mind, like maybe near to death, but mostly it's connected with some substances, and like but just the fact that multiple people, like thousands of people, could see pretty much the same stuff, but like differently, but they would have like feelings that they came back differently, like they have transformed and realized something fundamental, the secret of the universe, but they couldn't explain what it was. Is drug addicts. Anyway, so yeah, this is an interesting idea, and in my experience, I would think that it's going to be a very smart idea if you could communicate through different channels of information. For example, we use language, and language is not good. Trust me. Like, when I make some translations, sometimes like the vastness of difference in feelings and semantics and history and culture of some of the phrases, expressions, ideas, and like words in language they determine lifetime of like multiple generations. And it's funny how the majority of people are, it feels like the Matrix. When you know multiple languages, it feels like many people don't see that reality. Like it's a you look into two different worlds, like in two different patterns of thinking. It's like being in the multiverse. I always think about the idea, how does it feel to be in the multiverse? Like I always remember this Interstellar film where they had like these,
Yeah.
infinite wardrobes, infinite shelves, and it was just like so funny to see how our mind actually tries to find something very familiar and like say very central, and like
And
it's like some kind of an axis of our consciousness. And it's interesting, it's
the
very inspiring that they say it's like it's us but from the future, so time travel and all of that. So many cool ideas. So Maylin, what do you think?
there's the example of this.
Mm-hmm.
There's an example story in a game called
Mm-hmm.
mm,
Portal.
by forgot the just name.
Can you describe it?
It's in Oculus store, available in Oculus only. It's another competitor of the game called Half-Life Alyx.
Oh, okay. What's the name? Bone Labs. Something else. Adventure Tiger.
Yeah, it's not a Bone Lab.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the space, and there is an AI as well, AI robot
Mm-hmm.
that
Let me check my headset.
and the place will be the story happens in the Saturn space between Saturn and Mars,
Wow.
and
Yeah,
this
colonies.
and there will be
Hey, Taru.
some anomaly happens, and
Mm-hmm.
the crew will travel to the future,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the interesting stuff that happens is that uh, there will be option to travel the time, and AI, which is completely a robot system,
Mm-hmm.
will have to just go back in time and fix some stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and
Is it something
human
like
being will send the.
Blade and Sorcery? No?
No, it's not something.
I'm trying to find it
I
on
I
Oculus.
I will tell its name, but the interesting story is that the human being will send the AI to the past,
Mm-hmm.
and AI will change something that was wrong in 100 years ago, and
Hmm.
uh, to
Time
save
travel.
uh, his owner, and it actually works. That he will save, but uh, to he needs to send the information for the future, but he can't to go to the future through portal or through
Mm-hmm.
the anomaly that was happened. And what he will do, he will just stay and go into complete hibernation
Mm-hmm.
or a complete shutdown of his body.
Well. Mm-hmm.
And the owners after 100 years will wake up and
Mm-hmm.
gets information out of him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that I thought about the fact that like from the what I mentioned, like the timings, the time estimate of different things. Like our lifespan is this, and like the half life of like some kind of chemical particles and radioactive elements is gonna have like a half time of like maybe hundreds of years. And it's just interesting to compare
Yeah.
that in terms of like what if, like if you put in the very beginning the axiom that like about religion, right, because many people suggest it's the foundation of everything, right? Let's play around with the idea that everybody is one consciousness, and we have lived enough and developed enough to have a higher sensitivity level and finally come to the evolutionary like quantum jumping, so that way we can jump into the new reality with a different level of consciousness. And we would like the world would consist of people, which it already is around, like behind the door, like outside in the world, that everybody does what they love and everybody tries to be happier and they try to develop in my world. But there are a lot of people in the world who have very different experiences. And when you believe different systems, different ideas, the way you treat life could be different. So I like the idea that science actually gives me these, almost goosebumps and like godlike levels of material, like food for thought. That it's just like the thinking about it is just pleasure of its own. Imagine you could add a lot of physical, not emotions, but like physical experiences, smells, sounds, like light, feelings, all of those levels that we are able to experience in this life, but to have like different experiences with the same systems. Like very often some people have these, time warps where they have a feeling that they like spent 20 minutes doing something, but it was like 5 minutes or the other way around, where somebody thought that it's been like just a couple of hours and they lose like 8 or 7 hours of time. And just the way we can subjectively have a different sense of time. I always remind people about this feeling could be probably very familiar to you, because I have a suggestion that many people experience this. Have you ever noticed that when you have like a very fun, happy vacation, mostly it's when you travel, and compare that to the week of your winter time, like office job routine for a week. So take a week from one piece and like take a week from another piece, like 1 week of the happiest lifestyle, right? The best and fullest of events, and the other dull, boring like week in your life. Yep. I think you can answer me if you agree or disagree, but I would suggest that for the majority of people, they would say that when they had like fun, interesting time full of different events, they would have a feeling that time has stretched or squeezed, right? And sometimes when you do something that you're bored with, it's going to be like it feels like longer. So I'm wondering, what's the combination of feelings and knowledge and experiences and visual levels, which is fascinates me. And I think that the most elegant idea that I find from myself that it's going to make me happy is the fact that we have like different chakras, and that we're trying to evolve from world to world, having some basic indicator basically that is you. As you, I have no idea what is you, like that's the biggest question. What is you? Like, is it some consciousness? Is it like an observer inside you? Are those like 15 personalities that live in your one body, like in Billy Milligan's story? What is you? That's the most interesting part. And whenever you get to the level of the third eye, like it's like you have one more chakra to go. Yeah. So there's like one more level to it. But this chakra is actually depicted with two petals. Which one petal actually is a symbol of the mastery of looking into the outside. And the second petal comes in a different direction, whereas it's like a gift and mastery of clear vision, but inside. So you have two eyes that look outside and that looks inside. It's a level that comes after so many different levels of amazing experiences, like, successful life or a beautiful, appearance and a healthy body and all those great experiences in previous lives that you could store. But after a certain level of experience, you start seeking for something more in the most fundamental way. And I would say it's something unheard of, it's something unique, unusual, revolutionary, something that makes you excited and want to live for this life. Basically, making this your heaven. Like, what if we live already in heaven? Because we do live in heaven. For me, it's basically heaven because we have so many things that I heard from ancient books. They say, oh, there are so many amazing things you can eat, like, clear, rivers. And to a person who lived in a desert, the description of Caucasus, where I live right now, like it's a mountain range somewhere between two seas, the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. This could be explanation of heaven because the trees grow as they are. There's a lot of fish, beautiful rivers, like mountains, amazing, rocky structures and like ancient clays and all of that. It's just interesting to watch these endemic, for example, if you go to the mountains, the elevation, the altitude actually affects the physics of different biological creatures, mostly like plants. Because some plants, if you can see the climate changes the way they grow, the way they replicate. They have like different cool new strategies for survival and all of that. And it's very unique that around the world you can find only a few places like this, because every place in the world in terms of climate and the richness of our planet, it's actually unique. And just studying that would be like a hell of an adventure for us, I think. And this is it sounds like happiness to me, to live every single day full of events where you can experience like different levels of knowing, feeling, understanding, fathoming, the contemplation, and all sorts of fun and interesting activities, and even the negative activities, something like, for example, stress, or maybe for example, trauma, or something like a bad situation, or something that happens to your health, or something like that. When you experience some of that, as I like to repeat lately, pain is objective, but suffering is a choice. So, and you start thinking like, how does it feel to be that person who experiences pain but does not experience suffering? Well, that's a good start. And then they say that there are some people who could be in relative pain but at the same time be happy. So it makes me think about very many different clusters and layers of society and people, and how for example, what does it feel to be a homeless person in a rich country? Or how does it feel to be a rich person in a very backward society, in a very corrupted community, for example, not community, but the governments or countries? We have that all over the planet. Like, mostly it's what we have. We have a lot of unjust. This world, if you look in a real everyday life, leave alone statistics, you can objectively see that life around us is rather suffering. It brings a lot of suffering, like a lot of stuff that is going on, and like these money systems, and the fact that you have to work all the time, and like that many parents, they never have a chance to actually have children, but responsibly. Many people have children before they even manage to have their decent partners or something, have their own health and maturity at the level sufficient enough to have children. But it's just my principle. When we look around, we understand that there are different people with very different principles, and it's really interesting to explore that. So this is the idea that I want to bring into Theory of Everything, but I think I'm gonna spend more like a month or two trying to understand how we do this technically, and what are the opportunities for these, and whether we want to stay at this platform or maybe we want to switch to another one. So that way we need to have some more time to explore other places and have some research and development, right? So yeah, for a couple of months it's going to be difficult, but my main goal is going to be to play around with these tools, to see you guys. I'm very happy that Mylan, you keep coming to the events. I know it's very chaotic, but I really appreciate that you kind of help the community to be solid. So Kai Judo, I know that we had some like a text messaging, but I couldn't hear you the whole event. So I was wondering if you want to speak out loud right now, or just let us know, because we still have like around 15 minutes before midnight in my time zone. So I will probably wrap up. I had like 3 or 4 recordings. I omitted the parts where we were watching the video, so that way my recording is not blocked by YouTube as well. So yeah, that's the whole conversation that I wanted. So yeah, just watch party and me talking mostly. So thanks. Mylan, what do you think? So 15 minutes, we could still, you could take that time and have speculations like what I've just done. But mine are always about spirituality, about senses, feeling like of happiness and joy of life. So these are my main goals and values, and that's why I try to find out how do I do the things in my life to have that future that I really want to have, to be closer to reality. So yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say. Mylan, would you like to comment?
Yeah, just have an in mind, just a friendly suggestion, or like, yeah, I've seen one data regarding the having a baby, and this is as you give your position regarding the having a baby after financially becoming stable and being enough mature enough, or maybe career. Yeah, it's not, it's obvious right now. And in the meantime, one of the common problem that's most of the community having, this specific community having an issue is that after 40s, after their 40s, the female or male eggs starts to
decline,
mutate, and their babies might be have some health issues because of the mutation, and or maybe become an infant as well because of this multiple mutation. And there are some, this is just my kind of friendly suggestion, or the data I found is that there is also technology, something called egg or sperm frozen system, where the eggs will be
preserved,
frozen at the time where you have a perfect unmutated or healthy reproductive cells, and you will just froze it and then get it back whenever you're ready to have a baby. And like for female, they can grow a baby at the 50s or 60s.
Do you mean physically? Without reproduction cells included, right? Just physically to bear a child. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, just growing the embryo without just an.
Wow, that's good information.
But using the best or unmutated eggs, so that it will not just die at the beginning of the embryonic development. Yeah, and I've seen this kind of in a TED Talk as well. There are also, and I seen the same community around person who I know as well. Yeah, at least these kind of stuff needs to be considered while just balancing the financial stability as well as the considering the offspring
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just my uh,
Yes,
friendly
exactly. I agree with you.
sharing the knowledge.
I agree with you. This is like
Yeah.
important, in my opinion. Well, but because of the Nazis and because of all those negative events that we had in our history, some of the ideas actually evoked such a negative impact on humanity's memory that it's going to be almost impossible to what's that, delabelize to change the label for these events as totally negative. I was wondering if this, ideas of eugenics are ever gonna be applied to reality, because when I was a child, I could actually understand at a very early age that there are differences between people, very different, differences, physically and financially and like culturally and like emotionally. All these people are very different, and depending on how rich their family is or maybe how healthy physically they are, it changes, it affects your reality so much sometimes, and it's not all detectable. And the result of your lifestyle could be the dramatic change in your personality, right? I can tell the huge difference between different countries. For example, living in some parts of the world is so dramatically different from other parts of the world, mostly in a negative way. Like living in American society is very abundant. Like there's a lot of stuff. It's difficult to stay hungry in such society because there's so much food that it's like almost crazy. Like the majority of parts of the world does not have all that abundance, and some of the
But these
countries.
kind of
Mhm.
foods, you know,
Not healthy.
the wheat products
Mm-hmm.
are
Gluten.
and other, yeah, glycemic index are too high, 71 or 73. It's much higher than sugar,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why obesity level and diabetic level are too high because of unhealthy foods,
Mm.
sugar-rich food, and um,
Well, it's
still,
about the lifestyle as well. I
you,
have experienced in my own life, like, I can't say it's like the tendency for the whole country, but in America, it's been just like so much stuff for free. Like, how do I say it? Like, I am an accountant. Like, I was always good at maths, and my sister said that, economists are, necessary. People need economists everywhere, like accountants. So I thought, okay, fine. I don't really care where to study. I hope it's going to be a fun time and like some mental massage, which it was. It was interesting because like the higher education actually gave me a lot of interesting background in addition to my school education to be mature enough to experience different cool stuff. And yeah, I think that many countries, but even then, when I visited America, I could realize like how huge the gaps between our countries could be in terms of, for example, I can tell for sure that emotional health of people who live in Russia is fucked up right now, I think. Because trying to imagine yourself being a Russian right now, you're like, you feel like, what was the joke about it? It's you feel like you are a, a German. Yeah, you feel like people treat you as if you are something, like you are a fascist, but you are a Jewish German guy who's in in Germany right before it has become like a Nazi country. What the meme meant actually, that you feel victimized and blamed at the same time. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, we have no control over the politics in our country. It's so corrupt, and life is just shitty if you don't make money. And like in terms of like, it's cold, it's gloomy, people have to work long hours, and as they age, their life is so miserable that they can't even provide conditions for making it longer. And why would you make it longer if you live in a happy, miserable life, right? So yeah, I can imagine the differences and the gradations of different emotions and feelings in different countries would be very different. And it gets interesting that now, unlike many generations before, I'm able to move to different countries because airplanes fly. Isn't it magic? Like, we have the technology that is just like under 100 years. While I want to remind you that we actually have been the way we are for like hundreds of thousands of years and millions of years. And it's unprecedented time in history where I can physically can visit many countries and have a lot of fruits and like, exotic things delivered to my table because we have this like shipping and communication. But with this war situation, you realize how dependent we are in reality from fossil fuels, and how all the political actions and everything that happens right now, and why people are dying in wars, which is ridiculous. It's the fact that we still have wars and countries and different conflicts. That's the very clear indicator of how primitive we are and how we cannot manage our life. Or can we? What if we are a conscious collective mind that is trying to preserve itself, or maybe fighting for different case scenarios? So it's just experiencing your life is just interesting. So, and these like speculations and thoughts are also pleasure for me, as it is. So
Yeah. On the other hand,
mm-hmm.
you guys, Russian guys, at least be happy regarding the evil Putin, because at least he considers his country and does whatever that needs to devolve, or even he's ready to just kill anybody for the sake of his country. And although like if he wants to kill my country like for the sake of his country, it will be bad for me. But you guys at least consider this kind of angle,
Like you can
yeah.
relate, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like in the beginning, it's just the fact that is our mind is limited to linear time thinking. That can't you imagine going back to like multiple wars that we had and just realize how great our reality is? It's like so many atrocities where I do not want to live like 350 years ago. I can. I actually can. I'm really good at survival and like, living, saving money and all of that. Bargaining and all of that. But I think it's just so amazing that we have a chance to, at the same time, we have such a wide range of realities you could touch in this one singular life. Isn't it crazy? Like I could travel. Last half a year, I actually traveled to like 3 or 4 different places, and that was just crazy how I can afford to travel to Moscow, then for a few days, then come back to Vladikavkaz, like to visit different locations here, and then to travel to Crimea, which is under war right now. Like, isn't it crazy? Like just half a year ago, I was swimming in the sea, close to the beach, and everything was just like a vacation, and everything was pretty and amazing. And it's like a beautiful area with the ancient churches and like different culture, and different like mosques and locations and different beaches. And now it's like at war. Isn't it so strange to think that for somebody's making that morning coffee right now, doing their own daily routines, thinking about how to survive when a bombshell falls in their yard or something like that. Where those people in Israel and Palestine, I think mostly in Palestine, where they are at war all the time, and they see these missiles flying their way, and some protection systems protecting them from these explosions. It's just crazy to have a combination of your real life everyday routine with those thoughts. Yes, just curious. Anyway, so we can it's midnight for me, so we can actually finish our conversation. I think that next time I would love to have more people join. And so far we can probably keep it as a lecture, watch night, conversation, whatever feels comfortable. for a month or so, and then after that we can come up with some fun, interesting activities and to the whole next level of conversations in theory of everything. Thanks for coming. Thanks Stephanie. Thanks Mylin. Thanks Kai Judo.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was watching watching more videos of it, so I was distracted by that.
That's fine.
It was interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad that you liked it.
Yeah, of
Cool.
course.
Yeah. Next time, I'm gonna watch the video again and again probably because it's like so dense in terms of information, like, and to be able to stop the video and actually go and explore some other branch of information that I didn't have background in while I watched this video. That sounds like a fun journey for an enthusiast for like me. So yeah, Mylin, I would love to meet and have a conversation about physics. If you could explain it to me in more detail and maybe just like share your speculations and thoughts about like the marvels of physics.
Oh, but you just at least brought any scientific topics on this event. Yeah,
Yeah, nice.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's because you come, and I think this is a perfect opportunity to use some of the ideas that we never had a chance to apply in AltSpace because we are busy, and me and Mendes, we never have time to actually sit down and pay attention to like making it really cool like the way we want. We have the vision, but it's like too far fetched because there's too many things on our plates already. It's like we overwork like 4 people, but at the same time never get a chance to actually sit down and relax. Anyway, so I think that day is coming. It's a long-term goal, but we're there. I'm definitely on the path there to make this a real thing, like the theory of everything and beyond. So yeah, come back next week. I'll keep you posted with my emails, and whoever comes, I'll be very happy to see you guys. And I also had a recording. I'm gonna try to stitch those 2 or 3 parts of the video, check them, trim them, and like just upload the recording, the raw recording to YouTube. So you can find my YouTube channel and like watch the conversation, the rest of it. Again, if you wish. Okay. Au
Thank you.
revoir, my friends. Bye-bye. Likey and
Yeah.
cheers and love. Ciao.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining my thoughts. Okay, what's the camera? Stop recording.